But let me first tell you, this man was sent from London to quell a Maori rebellion in New Zealand, which had defeated the efforts of military men. The Maori were unstoppable. Their rebellion was blazing like a bushfire through New Zealand. But when George Grey was sent to New Zealand, he managed to quell this rebellion with very, very little loss of life. What did George Grey do? I have never been able to find a book which tells me exactly what did George Grey do in New Zealand in order to pacify the Maoris who had beaten the efforts of the British soldiers. Because that same George Grey was brought from New Zealand to South Africa in order to quell a great rebellion by the Xhosa people. And George Grey used outright trickery in order to force the Xhosa people to actually destroy themselves. George Grey deliberately and cold-bloodedly tricked the Xhosa people into slaughtering their own cattle, burning their own crops. It is one of the saddest stories of our country's blood-drenched history. And almost overnight, George Grey reduced the Xhosa people of the Eastern Cape into a nation of dying skeletal stuff. Because after George Grey had manipulated the Xhosas with the raw trickery into destroying their crops, destroying their cattle, he practically had them on the plate. Hunger, raw hunger and starvation achieved what military might had failed to achieve after many, many embattled decades. George Grey was a psychologist par excellence. George Grey was a trickster who knew the native races and knew how to exploit their beliefs to bring about their own destruction. Let me show you what Grey did. One day, when great tension was boiling up in the Cape, and when the colonialists were threatened by yet another border war between themselves and the Xhosa people, a number of Xhosa women, amongst them a Sangoma, a priestess diviner called Nongawuse, were tending crops when they heard voices calling out to them in the bush. Nongawuse, because she was a spiritual person and a healer, responded to these voices. She went together with her sister Nonteto to investigate, and they found a deep hollow in the ground, and from this hollow they heard the voices coming. And as the women knelt next to the hollow, the three amazing figures emerged from the grass. Tall men wearing long black robes made of animal skin with very big hoods on their heads appeared out of the hollow, and one of their faces were painted white, or so it seemed to the terrified Xhosa women. And these men were unusually tall. And they told the woman, Nongawuso, whom they distinguished by her attire as a traditional healer, that she must go to the Xhosa people and tell them to start killing their cattle and start destroying their crops. Mr. Ike, I want to show you this book, a book which was published many years ago, a book written by me and which made me one of the most hated black men in South Africa by the white establishment. In this book, I write, amongst other things, about a man called Sir George Grey. And in this book, I questioned certain things about this man, because Sir George Grey was the creator of race discrimination and apartheid in South Africa. Apartheid was not really created by the Afrikaners. It was created by this man many years ago.
Well, Sir George Grey was Illuminati in black magician, and fits the bill exactly with what happened in all these other countries you're talking about.
Say, when I raised questions in this book about Sir George Grey, I was savagely attacked by nearly every professor in various universities of South Africa.
The intellectual property.
Yes. The liars in ivory towers, as I call them. I said that the Xhosa did not commit suicide in 1857. They were murdered. They were manipulated by Sir George Grey into destroying themselves.
Isn't it interesting, Fredo? I've noticed this myself, that the story you just told about how those people were manipulated to kill their cattle and what have you, is mirrored again and again in the story that has spawned religion after religion. I mean, whether it's Mohammed or whether it's Joseph Smith with the Mormons, again and again, the initiator has a vision or an interaction with some God figure or angel, and bingo, they get told to do certain things, and the rest is history.
Yes, sir. And what is most interesting is that these interesting angels have suddenly disappeared in recent times. You no longer hear of an angel coming to tell some prophet to establish a new religion. No. Where have they gone? They carefully choose certain times. Now, Sir George Grey, so let me go back to him. He manipulated the Xhosa people into killing themselves. And a poor woman, Nongawuso, became the scapegoat, because in every evil thing that has been done in Africa by the white colonialists,